Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Native Echo Podcast, where we make English simple and enjoyable. I am Harper. Hello to all of our wonderful listeners wherever you are in the world right now. I am really glad you are here today because what I want to talk about is something I think a lot of people feel, but not many people say out loud. And that is the feeling of being stuck. Not physically stuck, of course, not like your shoe in the mud, although that is also a terrible feeling. I mean that deeper kind of stuck. The kind where you wake up and you think, okay, I am in the same place again. Same job, same routine, same city, same conversations, same everything. And a part of you wants to move forward, but something just keeps you exactly where you are. If you have ever felt that, this episode is for you. Stay with me because by the end, I think you will feel a little less alone in this. So let me start with something that happened to me a while ago. I was sitting with a very close friend. We were having coffee, and she looked at me and said, "Do you ever feel like you are just waiting for your real life to start?" And I remember putting my cup down and thinking, yes, exactly that. That is exactly the feeling. Like I was somehow standing in the waiting room of my own life. Like the main thing had not happened yet. Like I was still preparing, still warming up, still about to begin. And the strange part was, I was not doing nothing. I had a job, I had plans, I was busy. But something still felt paused. Something still felt like it was not quite moving. And I think that is what being stuck really feels like. It is not always visible from the outside. You can look completely fine and still feel frozen on the inside. So, what is feeling stuck exactly? I want to think about this properly because I think people use this phrase a lot, but sometimes it means different things to different people. For some people, feeling stuck means they are in a job they do not love, but they cannot find the courage to leave. For others, it means they are in a relationship or a city or a habit that is not making them happy, but they cannot seem to change it either. And for some people, feeling stuck is about direction. They do not know what they want, and because they do not know what they want, they cannot take a step anywhere. They just stay still. So, stuck can look like a lot of things, but the feeling underneath, that restless, uncomfortable, something is not right feeling, that is usually the same. And I want to say something here before we go further. Feeling stuck is not a sign that you are lazy or that you are failing or that something is deeply wrong with you. I think that is the story a lot of people tell themselves when they feel this way. I should be further along by now. I should have figured this out already. Why can't I not just do the thing? But that voice, that critical inner voice, it is not helpful. It is just noise. And often it actually makes the stuck feeling worse. So if you are feeling stuck right now, the first thing I want to say is this is one of the most human experiences there is. Almost everyone has felt it at some point. You are not broken. You are just in a difficult season, and that is okay. Now, let me talk about something I find really interesting. I think one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is what I would call the comfort of the familiar. Familiar means something you know well, something that does not feel strange or new. And even when the familiar is not great, even when it is actually uncomfortable, we tend to stay with it because the familiar is predictable. You know exactly what you are getting. And the unknown, the thing that is waiting on the other side of a change, that is uncertain. And uncertainty makes most people nervous. So even a situation that is not good can feel safer than a situation that might be better, but might also be worse. Does that make sense? We stay in the uncomfortable familiar because the uncomfortable unfamiliar feels even more scary. That is such a human thing. I do it too. I have stayed in situations longer than I should have simply because I knew them, I understood them, and changing them meant stepping into something I could not fully see yet. Let me give you a simple example of this. Imagine someone in a job they dislike. They go every morning, they count the minutes, they come home tired and a little bit empty, but they do not leave. Why? Because they tell themselves, at least I know this job. At least I know the people here. At least I know what to expect. The new job might be worse. The new place might not want me. What if I make a change and it all goes wrong? And so they stay, not because the job is good, but because the alternative is unknown. And the unknown feels like a risk. This is the comfort of the familiar. And I want to say there is nothing wrong with wanting security. That is a real human need. But there is a difference between choosing something because it genuinely works for you and staying in something just because you are afraid to leave. That second one is not really a choice. That is just fear making the decision for you. Now, here is another reason people feel stuck, and this one is a little more subtle. Subtle means not immediately obvious. It is there, but you have to look a little more carefully to see it. And that reason is this. Sometimes we feel stuck because we are waiting for permission, not from a boss or a parent, although sometimes that too, but from ourselves. We are waiting to feel ready. We are waiting to feel confident enough, prepared enough, certain enough. We tell ourselves, I will make that change when the time is right. I will start that new thing when I feel more ready. I will take that step when I am sure. And the problem is that feeling of being ready does not always come before the action. Often it comes after. You do the thing first, and then the confidence follows. But we sit and wait for the confidence to arrive like it is a train we have to wait for. And then we wonder why nothing changes. I think about this a lot with language learning, actually. And I know many of you listening are working on your English right now. And I wonder how many of you have thought, I will speak more English when I am better. I will have conversations when I know more words. I will try when I am ready. But here is the truth. You get better at speaking English by speaking English, even when it feels imperfect, even when you make mistakes. The readiness comes from the doing, not the waiting. And I think life is the same way. You get unstuck by moving, even a small movement, even an imperfect one, not by waiting to feel perfectly ready. Okay, so I want to talk now about something a little deeper, because I think underneath a lot of stuck feelings, there is something that does not always get named, and that thing is grief. Grief means deep sadness about something that is lost or something that did not happen the way you hoped. Now, when we hear grief, we usually think about losing a person, but you can grieve other things too. You can grieve a version of your life that you imagined and did not get. You can grieve a relationship that ended. You can grieve a path you did not take. You can grieve a younger version of yourself who had certain dreams that somewhere along the way got very quiet. And I think a lot of stuck feelings carry this kind of grief inside them. There is a sadness that is not always named, a sense of loss that sits under the surface. And because we do not name it, we do not process it. We just feel heavy and unclear, and we call it being stuck. But sometimes what is really happening is that we are mourning something. Mourning means expressing grief, feeling the sadness of a loss. And that mourning is actually important. It is not a weakness, it is a process. You have to feel the loss of what did not happen before you can fully open up to what might still happen. So, if you are feeling stuck and you also feel a quiet sadness that you cannot quite explain, I would gently ask you, what am I grieving? What is the version of life I had imagined that I am still holding on to? Because sometimes that is the root of it. And now I want to talk about something that I think is really practical and really important. I want to talk about the difference between being stuck and being still, because I think people confuse these two things and it causes a lot of unnecessary pain. Being stuck means you want to move, but something is preventing you. You feel the pull forward, and you also feel the weight holding you back, and you end up going nowhere, and it is frustrating and exhausting. Being still, on the other hand, is when you are intentionally resting. You are recovering. You are processing. You are not trying to move right now because right now is not the time to move. You are building, even if it does not look like it from the outside. The difference between the two is actually about what is happening on the inside. Stuck feels like resistance and fear and paralysis. Still feels like rest and purpose and quiet intention. And both can look the same from the outside. Someone might look at you and think nothing is happening for this person, but you might be doing the most important internal work of your life. So if you are in a period right now that feels very quiet, very slow, very nothing, I want to ask you honestly, is this stuck or is this still? Because if it is still, if you are resting, recovering, preparing, then that is not a problem to solve. That is a season to respect. But if it is truly stuck, if you feel that painful loop of wanting to change but not changing, then let us talk about what might actually help. And I want to say first that I do not believe in magic answers or perfect 10-step plans. Life is messier than that. But I do believe in small, honest movements. And the first one I want to offer you is this: name what you actually want. Not what you think you should want, not what looks good on paper, not what everyone around you seems to want. What do you actually want? Because I have noticed that a lot of stuck people have not answered this question properly. They have a vague sense of not liking where they are, but they have not gotten specific about where they would rather be. And without that specific direction, any movement feels pointless. You are just moving in circles. So try this. Just for yourself, not to share with anyone, not to make it look good. Write down or think about, honestly, what would my life look like if it felt right? What would be different? What would a Tuesday afternoon look like? What would mornings feel like? Who would be in my life? What would I be doing? Get specific. Not the fantasy, not the perfect, untouchable dream. Just what would feel more like me. That is a starting point. That is a direction. And once you have a direction, even a small movement in that direction starts to matter. The second thing I want to offer is this: look for the smallest possible door. When people feel stuck, they often think about the biggest possible change. I need to quit everything and start over. I need to move to a new country. I need to completely transform myself. And those thoughts are overwhelming. They feel impossible. And because they feel impossible, they create paralysis. So instead of the biggest door, look for the smallest one. What is the tiniest thing you could do today that would be a small movement in the right direction? Send one email. Make one phone call. Read one article about something that interests you. Have one honest conversation. Take one walk somewhere new. Those tiny things might seem insignificant, but they are not. They are proof to your own mind that movement is possible, and they add up over time faster than you would expect. I also want to talk about the people around you, because I think one of the sneakiest reasons people stay stuck is that their environment is not supporting change. And I do not mean this in a blaming way, but think about it. If everyone around you is in the same stuck pattern, if all your conversations are about how hard things are and how nothing changes, if the people in your life are comfortable with you staying exactly as you are, then change becomes even harder. Not impossible, but harder, because you are swimming against the current. Now, I am not saying cut everyone off and start completely fresh, but I am saying pay attention to who leaves you feeling energized and who leaves you feeling heavy. Pay attention to which conversations make you feel possibility and which ones make you feel like there is no point trying. That is useful information. And here is something I genuinely believe. The moment you start moving, even a little, even imperfectly, something shifts. Not everything, not immediately, but something. Because momentum is real. Momentum means the force that keeps something moving once it has started. And it works both ways. Staying still creates more stillness. Moving creates more movement. Even a tiny first step changes the physics of your situation. You become someone who took a step. And that person, the one who took one small step, is already different from the person who was completely frozen. That is not nothing. That is actually everything. I want to come back to something I said at the beginning, the waiting room feeling, the sense that your real life has not started yet. And I want to say something about this that I think is important and maybe a little uncomfortable. There is no waiting room. There is no separate real life waiting for you on the other side of some event. This is your life, right now. These ordinary days, the coffee in the morning, the commute, the small conversations, the mundane Tuesday afternoons, this is not the rehearsal. This is the actual thing. And I say that not to be discouraging, but to be freeing. Because if this is your real life, then what you do right now actually matters. The changes you make today are not practice changes, they are real ones. The kindness you give yourself today is real. The small step you take today is real. You do not have to wait for something to arrive to start living more fully. You can start right now, in this ordinary moment, with whatever small thing is available to you. And now I want to give you something to take with you, a few words from today that I think are worth keeping. The first is momentum, the energy that builds when you start moving. Momentum is real and small actions created. The second is familiar, something you know well and feel comfortable with, even when it is not always good for you. The comfort of the familiar can keep us stuck. The third is subtle, something that is not immediately obvious, but is there if you look carefully. Stuck feelings often have subtle causes that take time to understand. The fourth is grief, the deep sadness about something lost or something that did not happen the way you hoped. Sometimes stuck is actually grief in disguise. The fifth is mourning, the process of feeling and expressing that grief. Mourning is not weakness, it is a necessary process. The sixth is paralysis, when you are so overwhelmed by a choice that you cannot move at all. Paralysis is the opposite of momentum. And the last one for today is still, being intentionally quiet and restful, which is different from being stuck. Sometimes being still is exactly what you need. Use these words, think about them. And if you are feeling stuck right now, I hope this episode gave you something real to hold on to, not a magic solution, but maybe a little more understanding of what is actually happening inside you, and maybe one small door to look for. Before I go, I have a question for you. Tell me in the comments, what is one area of your life where you have been feeling stuck? Even one sentence is enough. You do not need to explain everything. Just name it, because sometimes naming something is the first small step. We read every single comment, and we love hearing from you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Native Echo Podcast and give us a like. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear these conversations. Share this with a friend who might be going through a quiet, stuck season right now. They might need to know they are not alone in it. Keep listening, keep practicing your English, and remember, being stuck is not the end of your story. It is just a chapter, and chapters always turn. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.